One thing I want to discuss here from a tiering perspective is that you want to manage a little bit more from a token perspective, or maybe from a cost perspective generally, how your users are accessing your specific models. So as you see on the screen, I'm going to show you how we have created a gold, silver, and a bronze tier inside of Kong's platform. And we're able to use that to rate limit these users against, in this case, specific total token count for access into the models. You can use this based on prompt token, completion token, or costs associated to specific usage. But in this case, we're going to use total token count. The gold tier will have access to 1,000 tokens for 30 seconds. The silver tier will have access to 500. And the bronze tier, as you see, and this is where we'll talk about access control a little bit more as well, does not even have access to GPT-4o. We'll take GPT-4o at this point as the more powerful model, and they have access to only 100 tokens per minute in the slower model GPT 3.5. So let me show you a little bit of that inside of Connect before we go back to our platform inside of Insomnia. So I'm going to go back to my Gateway Manager again, go to my control plane, and then I'm going to search specific plugins. So here we're going to use the AI Rate Limiting Advanced plugin. In this case, this is something that we're using for our consumer level 1. You can see the limit here is 1,000 tokens in a window size of 30 seconds. And you can see here we have the specific error codes 429's AI token rate limit has exceeded. And like I talked about before, the token counts strategy here is based on total tokens. There are other options you can use. In this case, you're going to use total tokens. So let me now take you to our tiering platform. And here we're going to show you that I have consumer 1's key based on the authorizations that we have inside of Kong Connect. But we're going to ask a question. What is the theory of relativity? And what we're going to do here is look at the fact that there are 289 total tokens that are used here. And this consumer level 1, remember, has access to 1,000 tokens. So we can ask this question multiple times before we hit a rate limit. And this shows that, again, that they've gone over their 1,000 tokens at within this 30-second window. That's all well and good. Let's compare that to consumer 2. Now remember, consumer 2 only had access to 500 tokens. We click that about 5 or 6 times. Let's see how many times we take for consumer level 2 to reach the same rate limits exceeded. So this only got 2 requests in before the rate limit was exceeded. Now let me go back again and use consumer 3. Now remember, I told you in consumer 3 doesn't even have access to Azure 4o. Actually, let me change this to 4o to make sure you see this here. So Azure 4o, you cannot consume this service. In this case, this verifies that this user is correctly set up inside of your rate limiting and access control group. So with that Azure 4o, they don't even have access. I'm going to put this back to Azure 3.5. And you'll see there's 1 request that has come in. Remember, they only had access to 100 tokens, so their next request right away has shown that their token limit has been exceeded. We again see that there's 1 connection point for all these different consumers in the Kong AI Gateway that gives you access to multiple different models. We're able to take observability and credentialing and tiering to a much more simplified approach where all of this happens for users into a single location instead of having to have connectivity to each of the different models that are out there in the wild.